Hello everyone, my name is Harasawan, and in 2024 I took my indie game Aces Under the Moonlight to Momocon. Join me on my 4-day journey where we make new friends, play some games, watch Smash, go to the Momocon arcade, eat donuts, look at cosplayers, and go home early sometimes because I'm an old man now. Now before I start, Aces Under the Moonlight is free to play on Steam, and with that said, let's drive down to Atlanta and set up our booth. Everybody's setting up, there are cars everywhere. Now for vendors, the convention starts one day before because you have to come in, drive your car in basically to this huge place, and then you walk to your booth. And you can see this is just me walking to the booth. Some people got to drive right up to them. And once I got to my booth, the problems began. For one, I didn't bring enough materials to set up the banner, but I got some help.
I'm sorry.
Hey man, this guy saved my life here. He helped me with my banner. Why don't you tell people about your game?
Yeah. I'm Jeff Baker, and this is Win Suddenly Games. Hey, there we go. This is Win Suddenly Games. We are a TTRPG developer here in Atlanta. We're debuting our flagship game, The Crypt Has Opened. It's currently in playtest, actually. It's free. So once you can see a QR code, you can actually go to that website and grab the rules for free right now and play to your heart's content.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My booth was pretty simple, so after that I was done and I went back to the hotel. I moved everything in I was going to move in for Momocon. So that's it for today. I just go outside and walk around now. So I remember this field. It was a baseball field. But I definitely remember that creepy murder shed for some reason. Never knew what that was for. And before I went back to the hotel, I had to stop at Sublime Donuts. I got my badge after some problems. I wasn't in the database at all. And my ID nor my QR code was working, but I got it. I could go get my table now. Claim it before it's too late. Now I set up my booth day one, and while I thought it looked pretty good, like the booth next to me, they literally set up an entire brick and mortar store, and they're also playing a lot of copyright music, so I'm gonna talk over it. Also, Shovel Knight. And once the booth is set up, yeah, it's kind of like a waiting game. You gotta hope that it attracts people. And here's like a shot of what they saw versus what I saw. And yeah, then you just have to wait because I didn't know what to expect at this point. This is the first time going to a con, so I just kind of started waiting. I really wasn't like standing outside my desk saying anything, but eventually people did like the booth. They liked the trailer, liked the presentation, and some people showed up. You know, I had no plan after they were looking at it, so I didn't realize that I should like get up and go ask them if they want to play, but eventually I just learned on the spot. Once I got people in the game, though, then came the hard part. I had to actually onboard them. I had no plan for this. Really, that thing around the TV, the shroud, has all the tutorials, it has all the game scenarios, but really, it's just there to look good. No one's going to read that. It's kind of like how in arcade machines used to have a lot of information just to attract players. I had to go in every time and, pick the characters, get everything set up, and then tell them the controls as they were playing. The big thing about all the matches throughout the weekend was that the game has hitboxes in front of the characters. It's not like a fighting game where it's kind of like on the characters. So that was hard for people to get around. Now, Aces Under the Moonlight is a Pong game. You are just trying to hit that ball into the goal, but some people were interested in the fighting mode that I put in because the game does look like a fighting game. The rules for this are a little different. You have to hit people with certain attacks or combo certain attacks to get points. It's a little more complicated, so I don't have people just jump in and play it. But a lot of people just enjoy coming in and hitting each other. Now, if the people were a bit more hardcore, they understood the strategy. Basically, it's like air hockey where you take the paddle and take it to the goal and just kind of goaltend like that. A lot of the game is trying to get you away from that, but it is the simplest strategy. And so you see these guys are like glued to the wall. And this guy's about to wipe the sweat off his hand between rounds. You can see that's a pro gamer mood right there, hardcore. Eventually the day ended and I had to pack up all my things, but the con wasn't over, so I can go and explore now. And just outside the vendors hall was the arcade area, and this has a bunch of stuff. This has DDR machines, it has Japanese only stuff that they brought here, arcades like Street Fighter 3 and stuff. They have Street Fighter 6 arcades, I remember. Just tons of stuff here. And behind it was the Smash tournament area. I didn't stay there long because I had to carry all my stuff and I was tired. But as I was walking through the area, you see tons of cosplayers. There's that thing from the Amazing Digital Circus that was a great cosplay. And just tons of people. And this is the only time I went through the actual entrance to Momocon. So I see the banner, and you can see the big entrance thing they always have. There are tons of people, tons of cosplayers. At this point, it's like 8, and so many people are still here. I decided to stay for a couple panels, but ultimately I wasn't super interested in a lot of them. I didn't really stay for anything. I ended up leaving and going back to the hotel, but I did see this cool cloud before I left. Yo, day 2 started out badly. I never got parking for Momocon officially, so I constantly had to change spaces and they got more and more expensive as usual. And so I had to go in different routes to the convention area, and this one day took forever. My god, my feet hurt. But eventually I got to my booth and set everything up and we were back to waiting. I'm kind of watching this back now and can see like that guy is staring at this and I'm not even going up there and asking him if he wants to play. So like I'm not really doing a good job. But like you can see there's significantly more people coming in today. And you know what? I just did my thing. I just kind of have this attitude where like, oh, my art will speak for itself. I don't have to say anything. I have that attitude towards everything and I really got to get over that because I got to be more of a salesman. And you can see in a lot of this footage, people come in, they're clearly interested, and then they just walk away without me saying anything. I don't even mention, hey, do you want to play? I did discover some important stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We got them. Not one, but 2 Waldos. I also found Shrek. Now, these 2 people are playing Cassandra, but the thing is that while she was actually the more popular character at Momocon, she's the harder character. She's much harder to control and hit with. People kind of do like her better. Now, it's probably because of her character design, like no one's played this game, so they're just kind of going by first impressions. But the problem is that Cassandra is like a really fast character. She's an unforgiving character. She's the harder character of the 2. She's less floaty. The only saving grace is that Cassandra has these big smears on her bat that show her hitboxes a lot better. Now, speaking of hitboxes, I do have a hitbox viewer in the game. I do have to turn that on a lot of the times in this footage because it's really hard to tell where the ball is hitting because the hitboxes look like fighting game hitboxes, but in reality, they're really precise. My issue is that it made the game look really ugly. I changed these much later, like after Momocon, but it just becomes like this blue and red sort of thing and covers up all the art. But for these trade show convention environments where people are only going to be playing 2 to 3 games really fast, it lets them get to the game faster. So I think it actually improved people's opinion on the game and it let people play for longer. So I like doing it. And you can see in this footage, like it's kind of hard to tell where the hitboxes are because it looks like it's a whole leg, but it's actually just the feet. And so the character is just moving past the ball when it should be hitting it. And a lot of people afterwards didn't like that. They told me specifically, like, the hitboxes were too precise. If they couldn't hit it, they generally couldn't enjoy the game. They were fighting with the controls. Now, if you're like these guys, you'll try to learn it. You'll power through that and, you know, you'll accept that some things take practice. But some people don't. Like, typically, people don't like that. But if you go to Momocon, typically you're going to get, like, some real gamers. On a side note, people really like that let's fucking go spray. Typically, I let people choose the spray, but eventually I just made the let's fucking go spray just to speed things up. But again, day 2 comes to a close. I tear down everything, and I go back to exploring the rest of the convention. I'm a little more thorough this time because I realize how much time I actually have, and I got to see a bunch of the other vendors. There's a ton of stuff at Momocon. There's a tons of like game stuff. This is an entire VR maze zone, and like they were having a huge fight here, like a Matrix fight. Look at this guy, like straight up John Wick over here. And if you come around here, you can actually see what they're seeing and how the actual game is being played. You can watch it. But today I decided to actually go to the arcade and see what it was all about. On this side, there's a bunch of racing games, and I'm standing here because the guy's cleaning this dancing game, and I know people go crazy on these dancing games, so I wanted to see it, so I just sat here. I don't know what this game is or how to play it, but looks good to me. After I played some games at the arcade, I decided to sit down and watch the Smash tournaments. I'm not a huge fan of Smash Ultimate, and in general, I do not like watching Smash. It's incredibly boring, but I can appreciate tournament players.
Oh, he tried to get that was it. He tried to gaze on Ellen. Tried to get him out of here. Good idea.
Oh, you only did the 1-2 and then backed away.
Ooh.
Eventually, I just went back to the hotel to go to sleep and prepare for the next day. Day 3 at this point was a well-oiled machine. I just came in and I just sat there. I did not change my strategy whatsoever. People came in, they looked, I said nothing, they just saw a dude staring at them with the phone and walked past. Now, Momocon's Vendors Alley opens pretty early, so typically people aren't there at 10 a.m., so it starts out pretty slow. But over time, you get more and more people coming in, particularly cosplayers. I believe on this day, a lot of people showed up, and there was a lot of cosplayers as well, including these two who showed up at my booth. People came in to play the game, as usual, that is why we're here. And at this point, the criticisms kind of just repeat. The ball is hard to hit, the hitboxes are pretty esoteric, the ball is actually very unpredictable. Also, the camera can get nauseating, especially at high speed. These are criticisms that I've had since the game came out, and I guess I never really fixed them fully. Another criticism I thought was interesting is that they didn't like the self goals. They didn't like the idea that you could score on yourself. And I was going back and forth on whether I should do this or not, but eventually I made it a toggle. You can now, in the game, put self goals on or off. It was something I never really even considered, but I guess that's why you do playtests. Something you're not really seeing with this footage is that I'm guiding them throughout the game. If they're having struggle with something, if they can't hit a ball, or if it's too high or something, I tell them to use a different attack and I have to explain it to them. Again, this is a fighting game problem. How do you tutorialize this stuff? How do you make it very obvious? How do you make it very obvious on site? Not like after they're in a menu and they went to a tutorial or something. Just on site. But the classic thing about art is that it has to speak for itself. I'm not going to be there every time someone interacts with this thing. So how do you make sure people get to the fun as fast as possible? The only real way I tried to alleviate this was to tell people that Charlie was the easy one. Why don't you play him? But the problem with this approach is that just because you play Charlie doesn't mean you have a fundamental understanding of this game. Charlie's easier because he's floatier. But to understand that, you have to know how to play the game. You have to understand like why being in the air is that important. And that's something even now the game doesn't really have. It doesn't tell you exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Like a good attack is just one that you can hit. It has a big hitbox. It doesn't tell you that the attacks have different angles, and it also doesn't tell you why it matters for you to control the angle of the ball. And I think that's the hurdle I have to get people over, because that is the unique thing about my game. That's what makes it not like a fighting game and not like Pong. So it's something that is esoteric. It's something that isn't really explained anywhere else. It wasn't all criticism. Obviously, people liked the art a lot, because that's what drew them to the game in the first place. And they liked the characters and they wanted to see more of them. Which is great for me, because I spent a lot of time on the art here. Now, no one said anything about the music or the sound design, but I'm pretty sure it's because you couldn't hear anything in this place. And like clockwork, after the day was done, I took everything I was going to take down and carried it around with me to the rest of the con. And afterwards I went to the arcade and actually went and looked at all the fighting games. There's Virtua Fighters, Guilty Gear. What else is over here? SNK, probably some sort of King of Fighters game. I played some Street Fighter 6 and I got completely destroyed, like a total turbo scrubbed. Here's some, I think this is plus R. Tekken is still really big in arcades, so there's a bunch of Tekken arcade machines here. Found Marvel. That's not Tetris. Found my girl biking. And here's some of the Street Fighter 6 cabinets. I'm not sure if these are cabinets or like these were set up recently just by some fans. Because I'm not sure there's an arcade version of Street Fighter 6, but I don't know, maybe. Then I decided to get some pizza, sit down, watch some Smash, because my feet hurt.
Okay, it's incredibly close right now. Looking at the recovery. Almost getting that down.
The order is negative versus positive because we fans even calls the other. But yeah, I've been calling for Tazo, and I'll probably win the tournament. You'll probably win the tournament.
Afterwards, more exploring the con. I actually went back to the arcade because I didn't want to leave yet, and that's when I saw a bunch of these like Beatmania stuff and like DJ stuff and drumming stuff. Tons of this stuff I think are only in Japan. I generally don't know how to do any of this stuff. I don't even know what this is. Like, how do you play this? I have played Crazy Taxi though. That arcade stuff is everywhere. Anytime you see those like steering wheel arcade stuff, it's Crazy Taxi. This is the classic head-to-head sort of thing where like you're playing arcade machine and the guy in front of you, you're playing against them. Then I saw this sort of skee ball basketball hybrid thing. I'm not sure how that works, but I sat there and watched for a while. After that, I actually left the conventions. And then this caught my eye. There's a bunch of people outside after the convention closes, or really any time, where they all are there with their cosplays. So I just took a walk around this time. As I was walking through here, I did my best to dodge everyone taking pictures. It was like an invisible maze. It's a cool end to the night, though. Like, after the convention center closes, everyone leaves, and then you just have a bunch of people enjoying themselves. All the cosplay this year does highlight how little anime I've been watching. I don't know any of these characters. I think the only time I knew the characters were from memes and stuff. And this was just on my way out of the convention center, so after I was done with this, I just continued on home. Okay, last day of Momocon. It was raining really hard just a second ago. I waited a little longer than I should have, but it's not raining anymore, so let's go. Luckily, I found some parking in the very good lot this time, because I finally got some sense and looked at a map to see which parking lot was closest to the convention center. It was a short walk, but it was also a pretty day because it was right after the rain. I really like that sort of post-storm lighting. And you know, we got right back in it. I started showing people how to play the game, and this time I put down the phone and like tried to get people in. And for some reason, I got people who were pretty good at the game this time. I think because the Smash tournaments were over and they were all coming in from that. But there are people who are actually kind of ready to use the other mechanics I didn't tell anybody about. I wouldn't sit there and explain to them about the meter mechanics because I thought that was way too much because you can cancel and stuff with the meter. But there were some people who played Guilty Gear and were familiar with these type of mechanics, so I could show them that. They also wanted to play like several matches instead of just one or two, so people stuck around for longer and, you know, they got better over time. And this runs counter to what I said before, where it's really hard to onboard people who just show up and want to play one game. Typically, like more hardcore people who are more experienced with fighting games, they will sit there and practice. So a lot of people were racking up quite a few points, but it wasn't on purpose. They really didn't know about the combo system in this game because, again, it didn't tell them. The combo system is when you hit the ball once, you get a combo. If your opponent hits the ball, they get a combo and remove your combo. And if you get a score, it's 2 points plus whatever your combo is. But no one really knew that. It's just that they hit the ball a lot and they couldn't actually get into the goal consistently. So they ended up just getting a lot of points, like racking up a big combo. And then when the actual goal hit, there'd be all these points showing up. I also had a rule where you could only play a few games. It wasn't like a strict rule, it was just kind of in my head. But I don't know why I did that. So this Monday, I just decided to ignore that rule and let people play as long as they wanted. And it does feel good to see people actually enjoying the game. Because I had no one else to play this game for me. This is like the first big playtest. Before it was just some of my friends. There's a lot that went into preparing for this. Not only did I have to fix like a bunch of bugs, I just have to kind of test it and hope everything functions the whole time because this is like your one shot here. If the game doesn't work, if the laptop doesn't run the game, if the power is wrong, then the whole weekend's shot, right? Because I'm not here as a vendor, I'm here as an indie game dev. So there's a lot of nail biting before and during Momocon, but eventually, at this point, I kind of understand it now, and I saw that things were going fine, so it was a lot more relaxing. It was really interesting going through the whole weekend and going from people not even realizing you're supposed to hit the ball and not each other to like stuff like this, where people are fully into the game and playing it, enjoying it, and like just picking it up and understanding it. I had been putting out shorts throughout the weekend, and eventually one got really big and people actually showed up at my booth because of them. I also saw this cool remote control BB-8 thing, and once the vendor's alley was closed, the entirety of Momocon ended. This is me walking through the teardown of the entire vendor's hall, and it's unfortunate, but this is basically the only time I actually got to walk through the place because I had to stay at my booth the whole time. I was alone. Now, for move out, you could do the same thing as move in. You could take your car into the convention center, up to your booth, and take your stuff and put it in. But you would have to wait in line, in a car line, for hours, I would think. And it was so hot, and because I had no fuel, I couldn't use the air conditioning, so I wasn't going to do that. I just went in 2 trips because I didn't have that much stuff anyway. Alright, I didn't want to wait. Went back to Yellow Lot. Oh my god. I got everything packed up. Everything else is in the back. Oh my god. That's it for Momocon. GG's everybody. Thank you for playing. And that's it. Let's get out of here. So, my first con experience comes to a close. It was pretty fun. The best part of the con was seeing so many people enjoy my game. Some people, mostly Lethal League players, already were really good at the game. And the worst part was that I really didn't get to experience the con, and I didn't get to sell anything. Everything was overpriced. I think the 11x17 I had was $45, which is delusional. And if you want to play the game, it's free on Steam. And if you want updates, my socials are at the bottom. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.